This is Nitin Sapre from Press Information Bureau, and I welcome you all to this press conference. Today we have with us director Niels Arden Oplev of the film Daniel, which is based on a true story of a Danish journalist. Secondly, we have Erik Polmo of DOP, who is a cinematographer, of the film Scandinavian Silence, which is a psychological drama about reunion of two characters. Then we have director of Ronda, Mr. Riccardo Salvati, the film is about the fastest genocide in the history of Rwanda.
All right. What should I say? Well, you already said the most. I think, I'm a Danish filmmaker. Currently, in the last 10 years, I've been living in Los Angeles, working a lot in America. I think my most known film is called The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, which is a Swedish film that I shot 10 years ago based on a very popular crime story that became an international hit. And from there I went to America. I've done 2 feature films in America and started 6 television series, but I tend to go back to my own country, to Scandinavia, to also shoot something in my own language. And the Daniel story, based on a true story about this young man who got captured by ISIS in Syria, was simply too compelling for me not to go back and shoot. So, the stuff you can shoot in Scandinavia and Europe is quite different from American film business. American film business is very commercial, very studio-driven, and the directors does not hold the same artistic power as I can do back home. So there's a big difference in working the 2 places. That's pretty much it, I think. Thank you for mentioning my age. That was not so good. I try to make my kids believe that I'm 258 because I think that I stuff too much strange knowledge into this head and can't be done only at 58 years. And let me shut up now and somebody else talk.
Mr. Riccardo, please.
Hello, everybody. Rwanda is my first feature fiction film. Before it, I realized only short movie and documentaries. And why a movie that spoke about Rwanda for an Italian director? In Europe, in this time, the situation is always strange because a lot of African people try to reach Europe, but all the European people are not interested in what happened in Africa. And so I tried with this movie to show a story that is not so known in Europe. And before becoming a movie, Rwanda was a theater show written by Marco Cortese and Mara Moschini, that are 2 authors and actors in Italy, and they had more than 500 plays of this theater show that put in scene the real story of 2 Rwandan survivors at the genocide. And when they asked me to realize the movie version of the story, I decided to keep the theater show and Mare Marco as lead actor for the reason that I said before. Put 2 white Italian actors in an African story, for me, was the better way to try to remove every difference, to try to remove barriers, and so I tried to turn an African story in a world human being story with 2 Italian guys that dressed the clothes of African survivors during the genocide.
Mr. Rick, please.
Hi, I'm Erik Põllumaa, cinematographer of Scandinavian Silence. The film is the second feature by the same director we worked on previous time. For us, it was quite complex to find the right images for the movie, since it's two characters in a car and driving in the winter, and to find the right angles to present the emotional state they were in. And otherwise, I've been lucky enough to work with different Estonian directors, mostly debut films, and mostly low-budget films. But yeah.
Thank you. And now the floor is open for the questions, please. Yeah, hey, just speak on the microphone.
The subject that you chose, was it
The film I made that won the Crystal Bear in Berlin was sold to Indian cinema. It's called We Shall Overcome in English. It's also called The Dream, which is about this boy in 1969 who sees Martin Luther King on television, and that gives him courage to start a revolution at his school against the violent headmaster. But I mean, that film has been shown all over the world, and it was shown here in India. I am actually not sure, but I think The Girl with Dragon Tattoo was shown here also. That being the originally Swedish one and not the American one. I hope. I mean, I'm sure the American one was shown here too. But yeah, I think it's always difficult to get foreign films out because the cost of getting them to the theaters is very risky for the local distributors. But I think that the streaming platforms are going to change that. So if you have a film and you sell it to Netflix or Amazon or HBO or something, then people basically all over the world is going to be able to watch it. So I do think the streaming platforms will totally change how we access films in the different countries.
What's usually the lead time between a film being released and it coming onto a streaming platform? Is there like
Well, I think that totally varies from country to country, because it really depends on when you obtain financing for a smaller European film. You kind of have sold off a lot of stuff like pay TV maybe in your local country. You maybe sold it to a local television station. You have distribution that has to make money off the video on demand first. And I actually have that issue with Daniel right now, that Netflix wants to buy it. They're mostly interested in, they're very interested in Scandinavia because the film is very strong in its own area. But the local distributor there, which is Nordisk Film, they have a VOD platform that they kind of want to fulfill first. So right now they're kind of like arguing. And I'm like, I want my film out because, you know, the film is very tough, and I could not get distribution in America because it's too violent for them, which is kind of ironic since American film are very violent. But there's a difference between violence and something that looks like real violence, I found out. So complicated, but I would say probably a year. I mean, the window is getting shorter and shorter. In the old days, it was like 2 years or something.
Suresh, and my question is to Eric and Ricardo. The question is on Netflix and Amazon Prime. Do you have any experience dealing with them, and how do you feel it, and what changes do you think that would bring into the media and to the film viewing?
I have not any experience about distribution on a platform like Netflix or Amazon Prime, and the production of Rwanda is looking for a contact for Netflix, and we are in difficult because we don't know how. Probably today is easier realized a movie production need less money than 20 or 30 years ago. But for the distribution is always a little bit difficult. In Italy, for Rwanda, we self-distribute the movie. Every cinema or every association or people can go to the website rwandalfilm.it and everyone can ask to screening the movie. And through this way, we had a lot of screening in Italy with this wave of self-distribution, and we had a distribution through film festival, but we are still looking for a real distribution for the movie, for the cinema part of distribution, and also for the Netflix or streaming distribution.